Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The world of Aquaman has always been one of the most visually spectacular and mythologically rich corners of the DC universe, and ever since the release of the previous film, fans have been wondering what the future holds for the King of Atlantis. Conversations about a third Aquaman movie have been circulating across the film community, especially after the massive global popularity of the first film and the continued fan interest in Arthur Curry's story. While the cinematic landscape of DC has been going through major changes in recent years, the possibility of Aquaman returning for another chapter remains one of the most talked about topics among superhero movie fans. The character of Arthur Curry, a hero who stands between two worlds, the land and the sea, has proven to be a powerful figure in modern superhero storytelling, and many viewers believe that his journey is far from finished. One of the biggest reasons Aquaman continues to attract attention is the unique world that surrounds him. Unlike most superhero stories that take place primarily on land, the Aquaman films introduced audiences to the vast underwater kingdoms of Atlantis and its surrounding civilizations. These underwater realms are filled with ancient history, powerful technology, mythical creatures, and political conflicts that feel almost like an oceanic version of a fantasy epic. Because of this rich world building, many fans believe there are still countless stories that could be explored in a third movie. The oceans of the DC universe are enormous, and the idea that there could be hidden kingdoms, forgotten enemies, and mysterious artifacts beneath the waves opens the door to endless storytelling possibilities. The success of the first Aquaman movie played a major role in establishing the character as one of DC's most popular cinematic heroes. The film managed to combine action, humor, mythology, and large-scale visual spectacle in a way that appealed to a wide global audience. The movie performed extremely well at the box office and proved that Aquaman was not just a supporting member of the Justice League, but a character capable of carrying his own franchise. Because of that success, a sequel was inevitable, and when the second film expanded the world even further, it strengthened the belief among fans that a third installment could continue exploring the story of Atlantis and its king. The potential story direction for a third Aquaman movie is one of the most exciting aspects that fans speculate about. By the time audiences last saw Arthur Curry, he had fully embraced his role as the ruler of Atlantis. However, being king is not just about sitting on a throne. It comes with enormous responsibilities and challenges. A third movie could explore how Arthur balances his life as both a hero and a monarch. The oceans are vast, and ruling multiple underwater kingdoms means dealing with political alliances, rival factions, and threats that could rise from the deepest parts of the sea. This creates an opportunity for a story that mixes epic battles with complex leadership decisions. Another direction the story could explore is the relationship between the underwater world and the surface world. Throughout the Aquaman series, the tension between these two civilizations has always been a central theme. The surface world often pollutes the oceans, while the underwater kingdoms sometimes view humanity as a threat. Arthur Curry stands in the middle of this conflict because he belongs to both worlds. A third film could dive deeper into this tension and show how Arthur tries to create peace between land and sea. That kind of storyline would not only provide large-scale action sequences, but also emotional and political drama that could make the film feel more layered and meaningful. When talking about the cast, the return of familiar characters would likely be one of the most exciting elements for fans. The actor who brought Aquaman to life has become strongly associated with the character, and his energetic performance helped redefine how audiences see the hero. Instead of portraying Aquaman as a distant royal figure, the character was shown as a charismatic warrior with humor, confidence, and a rebellious spirit. That personality made the character feel more relatable and modern, and many fans hope that the same actor would return if a third film moves forward. Another character whose presence would be important in a potential third film is Mera, the powerful Atlantean warrior and queen. Her relationship with Arthur has been a key part of the series, not only romantically, but also politically. As someone deeply connected to Atlantis and its traditions, Mera often represents the responsibilities and cultural heritage of the underwater kingdom. A third film could explore how her role evolves as she stands beside Arthur as a leader of Atlantis. Their partnership could become even more significant if the story involves major threats to the ocean kingdoms. Villains are another major element that could shape the direction of Aquaman 3. The previous films introduced dangerous enemies who challenged Arthur both physically and emotionally. A third installment could bring back familiar adversaries or introduce entirely new ones from the depths of DC's ocean mythology. The underwater world is filled with legendary sea monsters, ancient warlords, and forgotten civilizations, any of which could serve as the central thread of the story. A powerful villain rising from the deepest trench or an ancient ruler returning to reclaim Atlantis could create a massive conflict that pushes Arthur to his limits. The scale of action in the Aquaman films has always been one of their defining features. From massive underwater battles to high-speed chases across oceans and deserts, the franchise has consistently delivered visually stunning sequences. A third movie would likely continue that tradition by introducing even more ambitious action scenes. Imagine enormous sea creatures joining the battle, entire underwater armies clashing in glowing coral cities, or Arthur leading Atlantis into a war that could determine the fate of the oceans. These kinds of cinematic moments are exactly what fans expect from an Aquaman film. Another interesting element that could appear in a third film is the deeper exploration of Atlantean mythology. Atlantis is not just a kingdom. It is a civilization with thousands of years of history. Ancient legends, magical artifacts, and hidden temples could all play a role in expanding the story. Perhaps there are lost Atlantean relics capable of controlling the seas or awakening ancient creatures. These mythological elements could add a sense of mystery and adventure similar to classic fantasy epics. The possibility of a new generation of heroes also creates interesting storytelling potential. Arthur Curry's journey from reluctant hero to king has already been explored, but a third film could begin to show how the future of Atlantis is being shaped. Younger warriors, new allies, and emerging leaders within the underwater kingdoms could appear, showing that Atlantis is evolving. This kind of development would make the world feel alive and constantly growing. Another major topic surrounding Aquaman 3 is its potential place within the larger DC cinematic universe. Over the years, DC films have attempted to create an interconnected universe similar to other superhero franchises. Aquaman's story exists within that broader world, which includes other heroes and cosmic threats. A third film could subtly connect to those larger events while still focusing on Arthur's personal journey. The balance between standalone storytelling and shared universe connections is something many fans are curious about. Of course, whenever fans talk about a new movie, one of the biggest questions is the release timeline. Because large superhero films require years of planning, writing, filming, and visual effects work, any potential third Aquaman movie would likely take significant time to develop. Even before cameras begin rolling, the creative team must decide on the direction of the story, the returning cast, and the visual style that will bring Atlantis to life once again. This process can take a long time, especially for a film that relies so heavily on advanced visual effects. Another aspect that always builds excitement for a superhero movie is the trailer. The first teaser trailer for a film like Aquaman 3 would likely be a huge moment for fans. Trailers often give the first glimpse of the new storyline, the villain, and the visual scale of the movie. For Aquaman, trailers are usually filled with breathtaking underwater visuals, flashes of massive battles, and dramatic music that builds anticipation. Even a short teaser showing Arthur standing on the throne of Atlantis or summoning sea creatures could instantly ignite fan excitement around the world. Because the Aquaman franchise focuses so heavily on visual spectacle, trailers would also highlight the improved technology used to create underwater environments. Every new film tends to push the boundaries of visual effects further. Coral cities glowing with bioluminescent light, underwater vehicles racing through the ocean depths, and giant sea creatures swimming through ancient ruins are the types of visuals that make Aquaman movies stand out from other superhero films. As discussions about a possible third Aquaman film continue, many fans are also curious about how the character's personal journey might evolve. Arthur Curry began his story as someone who did not fully accept his Atlantean heritage. He lived mostly on the surface and saw himself as an outsider to the royal politics of Atlantis. Over time, however, he came to understand that his unique identity was actually his greatest strength. Being both human and Atlantean allowed him to bridge two civilizations that had been divided for centuries. In a third movie, this theme could continue as Arthur faces even greater responsibilities as the ruler of Atlantis and protector of the oceans. Leadership is rarely easy, especially when it involves governing multiple underwater kingdoms with their own traditions, cultures, and political interests. One of the most interesting narrative directions for Aquaman 3 would be exploring the challenges Arthur faces as king. Instead of simply focusing on battles and villains, the story could also show the complexities of ruling a massive oceanic empire. Some kingdoms might support Arthur's leadership, while others could question his decisions. Internal conflicts within Atlantis itself could create tension, forcing Arthur to prove that he truly deserves the throne. At the same time, the surface world could become a larger part of the story. The oceans connect every continent on Earth, which means that what happens underwater can have global consequences. Pollution, climate issues, and human exploration of the deep sea could become story elements that bring the two worlds into closer contact. Arthur Curry has always been a hero who understands both perspectives, and a third film could show him trying to protect the oceans while also maintaining peace with humanity. This kind of storyline would give the movie a sense of real-world relevance while still keeping the epic superhero tone. The emotional side of Arthur's life could also be expanded. Throughout the previous films, his relationships with his family and allies played an important role in shaping his decisions. His mother's legacy, his bond with his father, and his partnership with Mera all contributed to the person he became. In Aquaman 3, these relationships could continue to influence his journey as king. Being a ruler often requires making difficult choices, and the support of trusted allies might become more important than ever. Another exciting possibility is the introduction of new underwater locations that audiences have never seen before. The oceans of the DC universe are incredibly vast, and previous films only explored a small portion of them. A third installment could reveal hidden cities built inside giant coral formations, ancient temples buried beneath trenches, or mysterious territories controlled by unknown civilizations. These new environments would not only expand the world visually, but also add fresh storytelling opportunities. One concept that fans frequently imagine is the discovery of an ancient Atlantean legend or prophecy that threatens the balance of the oceans. Perhaps there is an artifact capable of controlling the tides themselves, or a forgotten ruler who once dominated the seas and is now returning to reclaim power. A storyline like this could combine adventure, mystery, and large-scale conflict, pushing Arthur Curry to confront dangers unlike anything he has faced before. The action sequences in a third Aquaman movie would almost certainly aim to surpass what audiences have already seen. The underwater world allows filmmakers to create battles that would be impossible in most other superhero settings. Entire armies can move in 3 dimensions, sea creatures can join the fight, and environments can shift dramatically as waves and currents reshape the battlefield. Imagine a climactic battle where multiple Atlantean kingdoms unite under Arthur's command to face a colossal enemy rising from the deepest trench in the ocean. Scenes like that would capture the epic scale that fans expect from the franchise. Another factor that could influence the direction of Aquaman 3 is the evolving landscape of superhero movies. Over the years, audiences have become more interested in stories that blend spectacle with deeper character development. While action and visual effects remain essential, modern superhero films often focus more strongly on emotional arcs and character growth. A third Aquaman film could follow this trend by exploring Arthur's struggles as a leader and showing how the burden of protecting the oceans affects him personally. The technological side of the film would also play a major role in bringing the underwater world to life. Every Aquaman movie has relied on advanced visual effects to simulate water movement, underwater lighting, and the unique physics of ocean environments. As filmmaking technology continues to improve, a third film could achieve even greater realism and scale. Cities of Atlantis might appear more detailed and vibrant than ever, and sea creatures could be created with astonishing lifelike detail. When it comes to the marketing of a potential Aquaman 3, trailers would once again be a key element in building excitement. The first teaser trailer would likely focus on reminding audiences of Arthur's role as king, while hinting at the new threat facing Atlantis. Dramatic shots of the underwater kingdoms, glimpses of powerful enemies, and brief moments of massive battles would be enough to spark global discussion among fans. Music, visual effects, and quick flashes of action would create the sense that something enormous is about to happen beneath the waves. Later trailers could reveal more details about the plot, while still keeping major surprises hidden. This approach is common in large superhero films because studios want to generate excitement without giving away the entire story. Short glimpses of new characters, mysterious underwater locations, and powerful artifacts could all appear in these promotional videos, encouraging audiences to speculate about the film's direction. The release date of a movie like Aquaman 3 would depend on many factors, including production schedules, visual effects timelines, and the overall strategy of the studio. Large-scale superhero movies often take several years to complete because of the extensive planning and post-production work involved. Even after filming ends, months of editing, sound design, and visual effects creation are required before the movie is ready for theaters. Because of this, fans understand that patience is often necessary when waiting for the next chapter of a major franchise. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the future of the film, the enthusiasm from fans remains strong. Aquaman's unique setting, larger-than-life action, and charismatic hero make the franchise stand out among superhero movies. The idea of returning to Atlantis for another adventure continues to capture the imagination of audiences around the world. Whether the story focuses on ancient sea legends, new underwater kingdoms, or the personal struggles of a king trying to unite two worlds, there is no shortage of possibilities for where the journey could go next. What makes Aquaman such a compelling character is the balance between myth and humanity. On one hand, he commands the oceans and communicates with sea creatures, making him one of the most powerful heroes in the DC universe. On the other hand, he is still a person trying to figure out how to live up to the responsibilities placed on his shoulders. That contrast between epic power and personal vulnerability is what gives the story emotional depth. As the conversation about a third Aquaman film continues to grow among fans, many people also begin imagining how the stakes of the story could become even bigger than before. Arthur Curry has already proven himself as a warrior and a hero, but the true challenge of his journey may still lie ahead. Being the King of Atlantis means protecting not just one city, but an entire underwater civilization made up of different kingdoms, cultures, and powerful armies. Each kingdom has its own traditions and expectations, and keeping them united under one ruler is far from easy. A third Aquaman story could explore how Arthur struggles with these responsibilities while trying to stay true to the person he has always been. One of the most fascinating ideas for the continuation of the Aquaman saga is the possibility of a massive conflict between the different ocean kingdoms. In the previous stories, Atlantis was shown to be only one of several underwater civilizations. Some kingdoms are allies, some are neutral, and others may have their own ambitions for power. Over time, disagreements between these kingdoms could grow stronger, eventually threatening the fragile peace that Arthur worked so hard to create. If that happens, the King of Atlantis might be forced to step into a role not just as a warrior, but as a diplomat and strategist trying to prevent a devastating underwater war. Another potential storyline could involve the discovery of an ancient power hidden somewhere in the deepest parts of the ocean. The DC universe is filled with ancient relics and legendary artifacts, and the underwater world is the perfect place to hide such secrets. Perhaps explorers from Atlantis uncover an artifact that once belonged to the earliest rulers of the sea. This relic might possess the power to control the tides, command sea creatures, or even reshape entire underwater landscapes. However, such power rarely comes without danger. The discovery of this artifact could attract enemies who want to use it for their own purposes, forcing Arthur to protect it before it falls into the wrong hands. The idea of ancient sea monsters returning to the oceans is another thrilling possibility. The deepest trenches of Earth's oceans remain largely unexplored, even in the real world, and the Aquaman universe could take that mystery to an entirely new level. Imagine a massive creature that has been sleeping beneath the ocean floor for thousands of years suddenly awakening. This creature could be so powerful that even the combined armies of Atlantis might struggle to stop it. Arthur Curry, with his ability to communicate with sea life, might be the only person capable of understanding the creature and finding a way to stop the destruction it could cause. Alongside the action and adventure, the emotional journey of Arthur Curry would likely continue to evolve. Being a king means constantly making decisions that affect millions of lives. Some of those choices might not be popular, and Arthur could find himself facing criticism from both the underwater kingdoms and the surface world. The pressure of leadership could test his patience and confidence, forcing him to grow into a stronger and wiser ruler. Watching a hero struggle with responsibility often makes a story more compelling because it shows that even the most powerful characters face difficult challenges. The relationship between Arthur and Mera could also develop further in a third film. As two powerful leaders connected to Atlantis, their partnership represents both strength and unity. Mera has always been a fierce warrior and a loyal ally, but she is also someone who deeply understands the traditions and politics of Atlantean society. In a story where Arthur must make complex decisions as king, Mera could become one of the most important voices guiding him. Their partnership could symbolize the balance between strength and wisdom that Atlantis needs in order to survive new threats. Another exciting aspect of Aquaman 3 could be the exploration of previously unseen parts of the ocean. The underwater world is enormous, and every corner of it could hide something extraordinary. There might be glowing underwater forests made from bioluminescent plants, giant cave systems filled with mysterious creatures, or ancient ruins from civilizations that existed long before Atlantis itself. Exploring these locations would give the movie a sense of adventure similar to classic treasure hunting stories, but set entirely beneath the waves. A powerful villain would also be essential for the story to feel truly epic. A third Aquaman movie could introduce an enemy who challenges Arthur not just with strength, but with intelligence and strategy. Perhaps this villain is a former Atlantean leader who believes the oceans should dominate the surface world. Or maybe the enemy comes from a forgotten civilization that once ruled the seas before Atlantis rose to power. This villain might see Arthur's rule as weak and try to overthrow him in order to bring back a more aggressive vision of ocean dominance. The action scenes that result from such a conflict could be some of the most spectacular moments in the entire franchise. Imagine entire underwater armies clashing in glowing coral cities while giant sea creatures swim through the battlefield. Atlantean warriors riding armored sharks or seahorses could charge into battle as energy weapons light up the dark depths of the ocean. Scenes like these would create a visual experience unlike anything else in superhero cinema. Technology in Atlantis could also continue to evolve in the story. The underwater kingdoms have already been shown to possess advanced technology far beyond what the surface world understands. New vehicles capable of traveling through deep trenches, powerful defensive shields protecting underwater cities, and energy weapons designed to fight sea monsters could all appear in the next chapter. These technological elements help make Atlantis feel like a futuristic civilization hidden beneath the waves. As the story moves forward, the connection between the oceans and the rest of the planet might become even more important. The health of Earth's oceans affects weather patterns, marine life, and ecosystems across the entire world. A threat to Atlantis could eventually become a threat to the surface as well. Arthur Curry, as someone connected to both worlds, would be the perfect hero to confront that danger. Fans also enjoy the sense of humor that Aquaman brings to the DC universe. Arthur Curry is not a quiet or overly serious hero. His personality includes confidence, boldness, and a bit of rebellious humor. Even in the middle of intense battles, he often shows a sense of fun that makes him feel relatable. A third film would likely continue this balance between epic action and lighter character moments that allow audiences to connect with the hero on a personal level. The anticipation for a possible Aquaman 3 would grow even stronger once the first official trailer is released. Trailers are often the moment when speculation turns into real excitement. Seeing Arthur Curry again in his iconic armor, standing among the shining towers of Atlantis, or riding through the ocean surrounded by sea creatures, would instantly remind fans why they love the character. A well-crafted trailer might also tease the new villain, hint at massive battles, and reveal glimpses of mysterious underwater locations that audiences have never seen before. Music would also play an important role in building that excitement. The sound of powerful orchestral music combined with the roar of ocean waves and the echoes of underwater cities could create a sense of epic adventure. These elements together help establish the tone of the film long before audiences actually watch it in theaters. The marketing campaign for a movie like Aquaman 3 would likely build momentum over many months. Posters showing Arthur holding the legendary trident while standing before the ocean horizon, teaser clips revealing flashes of underwater battles, and interviews with the cast discussing the next chapter of the story would all contribute to the growing anticipation. Fans around the world would analyze every small detail, trying to guess what the new adventure might bring. Eventually, as the release date approaches, excitement would reach its peak. Superhero films often become global events, with audiences gathering in theaters to experience the story together on the biggest screens possible. Aquaman's underwater world is especially suited for that kind of cinematic experience because the scale and visual beauty of the oceans look most impressive on a large screen. At its heart, the story of Aquaman has always been about identity and belonging. Arthur Curry was once someone who felt like he did not fully belong anywhere. Over time, he discovered that his mixed heritage was actually his greatest strength. He became the bridge between two worlds, the hero capable of protecting both the surface and the sea. A third chapter of his journey could continue exploring that idea while raising the stakes higher than ever before. If Aquaman 3 moves forward in the future, it has the potential to expand the underwater universe in ways that audiences have only begun to imagine. New kingdoms, powerful enemies, ancient legends, and breathtaking battles could all become part of the story. The oceans are still filled with mysteries waiting to be discovered, and the King of Atlantis may not yet have faced his greatest challenge. As the imagined story of a third Aquaman film continues to unfold, the world beneath the oceans becomes even more complex and fascinating. Arthur Curry is no longer simply the warrior who claimed the throne of Atlantis. He is now a symbol of unity for the entire underwater civilization. Every decision he makes carries enormous consequences, and the deeper he steps into the role of king, the more he realizes that ruling Atlantis is not only about strength. It requires wisdom, patience, and the ability to understand the fears and ambitions of many different kingdoms that live beneath the waves. Over time, Arthur begins to notice that the balance of power in the oceans is slowly shifting. Some of the underwater kingdoms remain loyal to Atlantis, believing Arthur is the right leader to guide them into the future. However, other factions begin to question whether a king who was raised on the surface can truly represent the traditions of the ocean. These doubts may not immediately lead to open conflict, but they create tension that spreads quietly through the underwater world. Rumors grow, alliances begin to shift, and whispers of rebellion slowly echo through the deep sea. At the same time, strange events begin happening in the farthest reaches of the ocean. Ancient ruins that have been silent for centuries start showing signs of activity. Powerful currents appear in places where the water was once calm, and mysterious energy pulses through the deepest trenches. Atlantean scholars and explorers attempt to investigate these unusual occurrences, but many of them return with warnings that something ancient may be awakening beneath the ocean floor. These discoveries could lead to one of the most mysterious elements of the story. Deep in the unexplored depths of the sea lies a forgotten part of Atlantean history, an era so old that most modern Atlanteans know very little about it. According to ancient records, there once existed a powerful empire beneath the waves long before Atlantis rose to dominance. This civilization possessed knowledge and abilities far beyond what even the most advanced Atlantean technology can achieve today. However, for reasons lost to time, that ancient empire disappeared, leaving behind only scattered ruins and legends. Arthur and his allies might eventually discover that these ruins are connected to the strange disturbances happening across the oceans. Something hidden within the ancient empire may be returning to life. Perhaps a powerful guardian, an ancient machine, or even a forgotten ruler has awakened after thousands of years of silence. Whatever the truth may be, it becomes clear that this ancient power could threaten not only Atlantis, but every kingdom living beneath the sea. As the mystery grows deeper, Arthur must gather the leaders of the underwater kingdoms to discuss the danger. This moment could become one of the most important scenes in the story, showing how the different rulers of the ocean view the situation. Some leaders might want to confront the ancient threat immediately with military force, while others may argue that disturbing ancient powers could make the situation worse. Arthur finds himself caught between these opposing viewpoints, realizing that whatever choice he makes will shape the future of the oceans. Meanwhile, the villain of the story begins to emerge from the shadows. Unlike previous enemies who relied purely on strength or revenge, this new antagonist could be someone who believes they are the rightful ruler of the seas. Perhaps this character is connected to the lost empire that existed before Atlantis. They may see Arthur's rule as illegitimate and believe the oceans should return to the control of their ancient civilization. This belief could drive the villain to gather followers from across the ocean, creating a powerful force determined to overthrow Atlantis. The conflict between Arthur and this ancient enemy would not just be a physical battle, but also a clash of ideologies. Arthur represents a future where the oceans and the surface world might one day coexist peacefully. The villain, on the other hand, might believe that the oceans should dominate the planet and reclaim the power they once held thousands of years ago. This difference in vision could turn the struggle into something much larger than a simple fight for power. While these events unfold, the emotional side of Arthur's life continues to evolve. Being king often means spending less time living freely and more time dealing with responsibilities that never seem to end. Arthur may begin to feel the weight of leadership more heavily than ever before. The oceans expect him to be strong at all times, but even the strongest heroes sometimes question whether they are making the right decisions. Mera's role becomes even more significant during this period. As both a warrior and a leader, she understands the pressures Arthur faces. She becomes not only his partner in battle, but also his closest advisor when difficult choices must be made. Their conversations could reveal the personal struggles behind the throne, moments where Arthur wonders whether he can truly unite the oceans while also protecting the surface world. Another fascinating element of the story could involve the ancient creatures of the ocean. In the Aquaman universe, the seas are home to enormous and mysterious life forms that most people on the surface have never seen. Some of these creatures may have existed long before Atlantis itself. As the ancient empire begins to awaken, these legendary creatures might also return, drawn by the same mysterious energy rising from the depths. Arthur's unique ability to communicate with sea life could become one of the most important tools in facing this threat. While armies and weapons may be necessary for battle, understanding the creatures of the ocean might reveal clues about the ancient power that has returned. Some of these creatures could even become allies in the fight, forming a breathtaking alliance between Atlantis and the wild forces of the ocean. The action sequences in a story like this would naturally grow even more spectacular. Imagine a massive battle taking place near a gigantic underwater ruin glowing with ancient energy. Atlantean soldiers clash with the forces of the ancient empire, while giant sea creatures circle the battlefield. Currents swirl through the water as powerful weapons light up the darkness of the deep sea. At the center of it all stands Arthur Curry, holding the legendary trident as he leads Atlantis into one of the greatest battles in its history. The visual design of these environments could push the franchise to new creative heights. Ancient underwater cities covered in glowing symbols, enormous statues of forgotten rulers rising from the seabed, and mysterious energy flowing through ancient structures could give the movie a mythical atmosphere unlike anything seen before in the series. As the conflict reaches its climax, Arthur may discover that defeating the ancient power requires more than simply destroying it. The secret to saving the oceans might involve understanding the history that led to the fall of the original empire. Perhaps the ancient civilization collapsed because it abused its power or tried to control the oceans in ways that disrupted the natural balance of the planet. Realizing this truth could give Arthur the knowledge needed to stop the villain and restore balance to the seas. Instead of repeating the mistakes of the past, he would prove that the future of Atlantis must be built on unity rather than domination. This realization would reinforce the central theme of Aquaman's journey, that true leadership comes not from power alone, but from the ability to bring different worlds together. After the battle ends, the oceans would once again return to a fragile peace. The underwater kingdoms would see that Arthur did not simply defend Atlantis. He protected the entire ocean and preserved its history. Even those who once doubted him might begin to recognize that his connection to both the sea and the surface makes him the perfect ruler for a changing world. In the final moments of the story, Arthur could stand on a high balcony overlooking the glowing city of Atlantis, while the vast ocean stretches endlessly beyond it. The journey that once began with a reluctant hero has now transformed him into a confident king who understands the true meaning of leadership. But the oceans are vast and filled with mysteries that no one has yet discovered. Even after the defeat of ancient enemies and the restoration of peace, there will always be new challenges waiting beneath the waves. The legend of Aquaman continues to grow with every battle fought and every kingdom united under the banner of Atlantis. For audiences, this imagined continuation of the Aquaman saga represents the perfect blend of adventure, mythology, and superhero spectacle. It reminds us that beneath the surface of the oceans lies an entire world filled with wonders, dangers, and stories waiting to be told. And at the center of that world stands Arthur Curry, the King of Atlantis, protector of the seas, and the hero who will always answer the call of the ocean whenever its balance is threatened. As peace slowly returns to the oceans after the massive conflict that shook the underwater kingdoms, Arthur Curry begins to understand that victory does not always mean the end of challenges. In fact, sometimes it marks the beginning of a completely new chapter. The battle against the ancient power may have ended, but the consequences of that battle continue to ripple across the seas. Entire regions of the ocean were disturbed during the conflict, forgotten ruins were revealed, and new questions about the history of Atlantis have started to emerge. For Arthur, these discoveries bring a new responsibility. The King of Atlantis must now guide the oceans through a period of rebuilding and reflection. Some underwater cities suffered damage during the war, and many kingdoms must work together to restore balance to their territories. Arthur realizes that this moment could either strengthen the unity of the ocean civilizations or cause them to fall back into division if old rivalries return. To prevent that from happening, Arthur begins visiting the different underwater kingdoms personally. Instead of ruling only from the throne room of Atlantis, he travels across the seas, meeting leaders, warriors, and citizens from every corner of the ocean world. These journeys show him parts of the ocean he has never seen before. Vast glowing reefs stretching for miles, deep trenches where strange creatures move through total darkness, and ancient temples built by civilizations that existed long before Atlantis. During these travels, Arthur also begins hearing stories from historians and explorers who have been studying the ruins uncovered during the recent conflict. Many of these ruins contain symbols and records from the ancient empire that once ruled the seas thousands of years ago. The more these historians learn, the clearer it becomes that Atlantis itself was shaped by the rise and fall of earlier civilizations. This discovery sparks a new sense of curiosity within Arthur. If the oceans once held powerful civilizations that disappeared, could there still be hidden kingdoms waiting to be discovered? The oceans of Earth are incredibly vast, and even the advanced technology of Atlantis has not explored every corner of them. The possibility that unknown civilizations might still exist somewhere in the deep sea creates both excitement and caution. Meanwhile, the relationship between the underwater world and the surface world continues to evolve. News of the recent underwater conflict eventually reaches the surface through unusual ocean disturbances and mysterious sightings reported by sailors and researchers. Some people on land begin to realize that something powerful exists beneath the waves, something capable of affecting the entire planet. Arthur understands that keeping the oceans completely hidden from the surface world may not be possible forever. At some point, humanity will inevitably learn more about the civilizations beneath the sea. Instead of allowing fear or misunderstanding to shape that discovery, Arthur begins considering whether the time might eventually come for a new kind of relationship between Atlantis and the surface world. This idea is not simple. Many Atlanteans believe the surface world has already caused enough damage to the oceans through pollution and overfishing. They worry that revealing Atlantis could invite even greater interference from humans. Arthur must carefully balance these concerns while still believing that cooperation between the two worlds might one day be possible. As Arthur faces these political challenges, another mystery begins to emerge from the deep sea. The ancient ruins discovered during the previous battle continue to reveal secrets that Atlantean historians had never expected to find. Among these discoveries is a series of ancient star maps carved into enormous stone walls deep beneath the ocean floor. These maps appear to show not only the oceans of Earth, but also patterns of energy connected to the stars above. Some scholars begin to believe that the ancient civilization that existed before Atlantis may have possessed knowledge about the universe far beyond what modern Atlanteans understand. This raises an extraordinary possibility that the ancient empire might have been connected to forces beyond Earth itself. Arthur does not immediately know what to make of this information, but it becomes clear that the oceans still hold secrets far greater than anyone imagined. The more Atlantis learns about the past, the more it becomes obvious that the history of the seas is deeply connected to the future of the entire planet. At the same time, Arthur continues growing into his role as king. In the beginning of his journey, he often relied on instinct and strength to solve problems. Now he realizes that leadership sometimes requires patience and long-term thinking. Instead of reacting to every challenge with battle, he begins focusing more on building alliances and strengthening cooperation between the underwater kingdoms. Mera remains one of the most important figures in this effort. Her understanding of Atlantean traditions and politics allows her to guide Arthur through complicated negotiations with other kingdoms. Together, they work to ensure that the unity created during the recent conflict does not fade away. Their partnership becomes a symbol of stability for Atlantis. While Arthur represents the connection between land and sea, Mera represents the deep cultural roots of the ocean kingdoms. Together, they form a leadership that combines strength, wisdom, and respect for the history of the oceans. During this period of rebuilding, the people of Atlantis begin to see their king in a new light. Arthur is no longer just the warrior who defeated powerful enemies. He has become a leader willing to travel across the oceans, listen to his people, and understand the needs of every kingdom under his protection. This transformation strengthens the bond between the ruler of Atlantis and the citizens he serves. Yet even as peace settles over the seas, the ocean remains a place of endless mystery. Strange lights occasionally appear in distant waters. Massive creatures move through unexplored trenches, and ancient structures continue to emerge from beneath layers of sand and coral. Every new discovery reminds Arthur that the ocean is far older and more powerful than any single kingdom. One evening, as Arthur stands at the edge of Atlantis overlooking the endless dark blue waters, he reflects on everything that has happened since he first discovered his destiny. He remembers the days when he doubted whether he truly belonged in Atlantis. Now he understands that his journey was never just about claiming a throne. It was about learning how to unite worlds that once seemed impossible to bring together. The story of Aquaman has always been about balance, the balance between land and sea, power and responsibility, tradition and change. Arthur Curry represents that balance more clearly than anyone else in the DC universe. He is the hero who understands that the greatest strength of Atlantis lies not in conquering others, but in protecting the oceans that sustain life across the planet. Looking toward the future, Arthur knows that new adventures and challenges will inevitably arise. The oceans cover most of the Earth, and within those vast waters countless mysteries remain hidden. Somewhere in those depths there may still be undiscovered kingdoms, forgotten creatures, and ancient secrets waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. For fans of the Aquaman story, this endless potential is part of what makes the character so exciting. Unlike heroes who fight only in cities or on distant planets, Aquaman's world exists in the mysterious depths of our own planet. Every wave that crashes on the shore hints at a world beneath the surface, a world of glowing cities, powerful warriors, and a king who watches over the oceans. As the legend of Atlantis continues to grow, Arthur Curry stands ready to face whatever the future brings. Whether the challenge comes from ancient forces, hidden civilizations, or the ever-changing relationship between land and sea, the King of Atlantis will always answer the call. Because the oceans are vast, mysterious, and alive with stories still waiting to be told. And as long as the waves continue to move across the planet, the legend of Aquaman will continue to rise from the depths, stronger, greater, and ready for the next chapter beneath the endless blue sea. As time moves forward after the great events that reshaped the oceans, Arthur Curry slowly begins to understand that the responsibilities of the King of Atlantis are far greater than anything he imagined when he first took the throne. The oceans are not only vast in size, but also incredibly complex in the way different ecosystems, kingdoms, and ancient traditions exist together beneath the waves. Every part of the sea has its own identity, its own creatures, and its own history. Protecting all of it requires more than strength, it requires vision. Arthur begins to spend more time learning about the ancient knowledge preserved within the libraries and temples of Atlantis. These archives contain records written by generations of Atlantean scholars who studied the oceans long before Arthur was born. Many of these texts describe unusual phenomena within the sea. Currents that appear only once every few centuries, mysterious glowing structures hidden in deep trenches, and stories of ancient guardians believed to watch over the balance of the ocean. At first, Arthur views these records simply as pieces of history. But the more he reads, the more he realizes that the oceans may still hold forces that even Atlantis does not fully understand. Some of the writings describe enormous energy currents flowing through the deepest parts of the planet, almost like invisible rivers moving beneath the ocean floor. According to the oldest legends, these energy currents connect different regions of the sea and may even influence the natural balance of the entire planet. This discovery leads Arthur to organize a new group of explorers within Atlantis. Instead of focusing only on defense and military strength, he wants Atlantis to expand its knowledge of the oceans. Scientists, historians, and explorers are sent on missions to study the deepest and most mysterious regions of the sea. These missions begin uncovering extraordinary things: vast underwater caverns filled with glowing minerals, ancient stone gateways covered in unknown symbols, and strange life forms that have adapted to survive in total darkness miles beneath the surface. While many of these discoveries bring excitement and curiosity, some of them also raise new concerns. Certain explorers report sensing powerful energy waves coming from areas of the ocean that were previously thought to be completely inactive. These waves do not appear natural, and some Atlantean scholars begin to suspect that something deep within the planet may be slowly awakening. Arthur takes these reports seriously. He has already seen how ancient forces from the past can suddenly rise again to threaten the oceans. This time, however, the mystery feels even larger. The energy signals appear to be coming from several different parts of the sea at once, forming a pattern that seems almost deliberate. At the same time, Arthur continues working to strengthen alliances between the underwater kingdoms. After the conflicts of the past, many leaders understand the importance of cooperation. Meetings between the rulers of different ocean territories become more common, and new agreements are formed to ensure that the oceans remain united against future threats. During one of these gatherings, an Atlantean explorer arrives with urgent news. Deep beneath the ocean floor, a massive structure has been discovered buried under layers of ancient rock. The structure appears to be far older than Atlantis itself, and its design does not match any known civilization from the ocean's history. When Arthur and his closest advisors study the images and reports brought back by the explorers, they realize that the structure may be connected to the mysterious energy waves detected across the oceans. It seems to be acting almost like a giant source of power, sending pulses of energy through the deep sea. The discovery creates both excitement and fear among the Atlanteans. If the structure truly holds an unknown form of energy, it could represent an incredible source of knowledge, or a dangerous force that should never have been disturbed. Arthur decides to personally lead an expedition to the location. Accompanied by a group of Atlantean warriors, scientists, and explorers, he travels to one of the deepest parts of the ocean where the structure was discovered. The journey itself is filled with breathtaking sights. As they descend deeper into the sea, the light from the surface disappears and the environment becomes darker and more mysterious. Eventually, the expedition reaches the enormous structure resting within a vast underwater canyon. It rises from the seabed like a colossal monument, covered in glowing patterns that slowly pulse with energy. The symbols carved into its surface do not resemble Atlantean writing, suggesting that the structure may belong to a civilization completely unknown to modern history. As the team begins studying the structure, they realize that it may have been dormant for thousands of years. Something about the recent disturbances in the ocean may have triggered it to become active again. The glowing patterns on the surface begin reacting as Arthur approaches, almost as if the structure recognizes the presence of the King of Atlantis. This moment creates a sense of awe and tension. Arthur has faced many enemies and mysteries in the oceans, but this discovery feels different. It does not appear to be a weapon or a fortress. Instead, it seems to be part of a larger system that connects different parts of the ocean through invisible energy pathways. Atlantean scientists begin to theorize that the structure may be part of an ancient planetary network designed to regulate the balance of the oceans and the planet itself. If that theory is true, it would mean that the oceans were once protected by technology or knowledge far beyond anything Atlantis currently possesses. However, activating such a system could also be dangerous if its purpose is misunderstood. Arthur realizes that whatever this structure is, it represents another piece of the ocean's forgotten past, a past that may hold both incredible wisdom and unimaginable power. While the team continues studying the structure, strange signals begin appearing across other parts of the ocean. Similar energy sources start activating in distant regions of the sea, suggesting that the structure they discovered may be connected to many others scattered across the planet. This revelation hints at an even greater mystery. If these structures are truly connected, they may form a hidden network that spans the entire ocean floor. Understanding their purpose could change everything Atlantis knows about the history of the oceans. Arthur decides that Atlantis must approach this discovery carefully. Instead of rushing to activate or control these ancient systems, he orders his explorers and scientists to focus on learning as much as possible about them. Knowledge, he believes, is the key to preventing the mistakes that destroyed ancient civilizations in the past. As he returns to Atlantis after the expedition, Arthur stands once again before the vast ocean stretching beyond the city. The waves move calmly across the surface, hiding the incredible mysteries that exist beneath them. Arthur knows that the journey of Aquaman is far from over. Every new discovery beneath the sea reveals another layer of history, another secret waiting to be understood. The oceans are not just a battlefield for heroes and villains. They are a living world filled with stories that stretch back thousands of years. And as long as those mysteries remain hidden in the depths, the King of Atlantis will continue exploring, protecting, and learning from the endless waters that define his destiny. Because beneath every wave lies a story waiting to rise, and Arthur Curry will always be there to answer the call of the ocean, guiding Atlantis into a future where the secrets of the sea become the foundation of a new era for both the underwater world and the planet above it. As the mysterious discoveries beneath the ocean continue to grow, Arthur Curry begins to realize that the deeper Atlantis searches into the forgotten past of the oceans, the more questions begin to appear. The ancient structures that his explorers discovered were not isolated ruins. Instead, they seem to be part of something much larger, something that was created long before the rise of Atlantis, and possibly even before the first Atlantean civilization existed. Across the vast ocean floor, Atlantean scouts and explorers begin reporting similar discoveries. Massive pillars buried in deep trenches, strange circular gateways covered in glowing symbols, and enormous energy sources that appear to pulse slowly beneath layers of ancient rock. Each of these structures seems to react in subtle ways when approached by Atlantean technology or by Arthur himself. What makes the situation even more mysterious is the pattern these discoveries begin to form. When the locations of these ancient structures are placed onto maps of the oceans, they create a vast network that spreads across the entire planet. It becomes clear that these ruins are not random remnants of an old civilization. They were deliberately placed in specific locations across the seas. Atlantean scholars begin studying the patterns more carefully, and one theory slowly emerges among them. According to their research, these structures might be part of an ancient planetary system designed to maintain balance in the oceans. Long before Atlantis became the dominant underwater civilization, another culture may have built these structures to regulate the energy currents flowing through the planet's oceans. These energy currents are something Arthur has recently learned more about. They move invisibly through the deepest layers of the ocean, influencing water movement, temperature, and even the migration patterns of marine life. If the ancient civilization truly built structures capable of controlling these currents, it would mean they once possessed technology or knowledge far beyond what Atlantis currently understands. Arthur listens carefully to the scholars presenting these ideas, but he also knows that ancient power can be dangerous. History has shown that civilizations capable of controlling massive natural forces often collapse when that power is misused. The ruins scattered across the ocean floor could represent both incredible wisdom and a warning from the past. Meanwhile, strange phenomena begin occurring across different regions of the sea. Some underwater currents begin shifting in unusual ways. Massive schools of sea creatures start migrating to areas they have never visited before. Even the giant creatures living in the deepest trenches seem restless, as if they can sense the awakening of something ancient beneath the ocean floor. Arthur begins to wonder whether the activation of the first structure triggered a chain reaction across the entire ancient network. If that is true, then Atlantis may be witnessing the slow reawakening of a system that has been silent for thousands of years. Determined to understand what is happening, Arthur organizes another large expedition. This time, the mission involves multiple teams of explorers traveling to different parts of the ocean where the ancient structures have been discovered. Each team is tasked with studying the ruins carefully and reporting any changes in the energy patterns surrounding them. The expeditions reveal incredible sights hidden in the darkest parts of the sea. Some structures appear as enormous towers rising from deep trenches, their surfaces glowing faintly with symbols that no Atlantean scholar can fully translate. Others resemble giant rings partially buried in the seabed, with energy fields slowly moving through their circular frames. One expedition discovers a structure that looks almost like a massive gate built into the side of an underwater mountain. The gate appears sealed, but faint energy signals suggest that it may once have been used to transport something or someone between distant regions of the ocean. These discoveries begin to reshape how Atlantis views the history of the planet. The ancient civilization responsible for building these structures must have been incredibly advanced, capable of understanding the oceans on a level that even modern Atlantean scientists are only beginning to explore. While the explorers continue studying these ruins, Arthur finds himself facing another challenge closer to home. The leaders of several underwater kingdoms begin expressing concern about the increasing activation of these ancient systems. Some rulers fear that disturbing these structures could awaken forces that Atlantis is not prepared to control. Others see the situation differently. They believe the ancient technology could strengthen Atlantis and make the underwater kingdoms more powerful than ever before. If the structures truly control the energy currents of the oceans, mastering them could give Atlantis the ability to reshape the seas themselves. These conflicting opinions begin creating tension between the different kingdoms once again. Arthur realizes that the decisions he makes regarding these ancient discoveries could determine whether the oceans remain united or fall back into rivalry and conflict. In private discussions with Mera and his closest advisors, Arthur admits that he feels the weight of these decisions more heavily than any battle he has ever fought. Fighting enemies in combat is something he understands well, but deciding how to handle ancient power capable of affecting the entire planet requires a different kind of leadership. Mera encourages Arthur to trust the instincts that helped him become king in the first place. She reminds him that his greatest strength has always been his ability to see beyond fear and ambition. While others focus on power, Arthur focuses on balance and protection. Taking her advice to heart, Arthur decides that Atlantis will continue studying the ancient structures, but will avoid activating them until their purpose is fully understood. Knowledge must come before power. Meanwhile, mysterious energy readings continue increasing across the ocean network. Atlantean scientists begin detecting faint signals passing between the ancient structures, almost like messages traveling through the ocean itself. These signals seem to follow patterns that resemble communication rather than random energy pulses. If that interpretation is correct, it could mean that the ancient network was designed not only to control ocean currents, but also to send information across vast distances beneath the sea. The possibility that an ancient communication system is slowly coming back online creates both excitement and unease among the Atlanteans. If these signals can be understood, They might reveal the history of the civilization that built the network, but they might also activate systems that have been dormant for thousands of years. Arthur orders the scientists of Atlantis to begin decoding the signals carefully. Day after day, they study the patterns, searching for meaning within the flowing energy pulses traveling through the ancient network. Then one day, something unexpected happens. One of the ancient structures deep in the ocean suddenly emits a powerful burst of light that spreads through the water like a wave. For a brief moment, every energy signal detected across the network becomes stronger, almost as if the entire system has acknowledged something. The message is incomplete and difficult to translate, but the few symbols that can be understood carry a chilling implication. The ancient network may not simply be a tool left behind by a lost civilization. It may be part of a system designed to monitor the oceans and possibly even protect the planet from a threat that could one day rise from the depths. Arthur stands silently as the scientists explain their findings. The oceans have always been filled with mysteries, but this discovery suggests that something even greater lies hidden beneath the waves. Something ancient, something powerful, and possibly something that the creators of the ancient network were preparing the oceans to face. Arthur looks out across the vast waters surrounding Atlantis, knowing that whatever secrets the ocean still holds, they are slowly beginning to reveal themselves. The legend of Aquaman is no longer only about battles between heroes and villains. It has become a journey into the hidden history of the oceans themselves, a story that may eventually uncover truths far older and more powerful than Atlantis ever imagined. And as the King of Atlantis, Arthur Curry knows that when those truths finally rise from the depths, he will be the one standing between the mysteries of the sea and the future of the entire world. The mysterious signal from the ancient ocean network spreads across the seas. A sense of unease begins to grow throughout Atlantis and the surrounding underwater kingdoms. The message hidden within the energy pulses remains incomplete, but even the fragments that Atlantean scientists have managed to translate are enough to raise serious concerns. The ancient civilization that created the network did not simply build it to control ocean currents or share knowledge across the seas. The symbols strongly suggest that the system may have been designed as a planetary defense mechanism, something meant to monitor and respond to a threat that could one day rise from the deepest parts of the ocean. Arthur Curry listens carefully as scholars and researchers present their findings. Some of them believe the network was created to prevent natural disasters that could disrupt the oceans. Others think it may have been meant to protect the planet from forces beyond Earth itself. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is clear. The structures scattered across the ocean floor were built with a purpose far greater than Atlantis originally believed. Meanwhile, strange changes continue happening across the seas. Certain deep trenches begin releasing powerful energy pulses similar to those coming from the ancient structures. Giant sea creatures that normally remain hidden in the deepest waters begin moving closer to the surface. Even the currents surrounding Atlantis shift slightly, as if the oceans themselves are reacting to something awakening beneath them. Arthur begins to feel that the oceans are trying to warn him about something. As someone who has always shared a unique connection with marine life, he senses a growing restlessness among the creatures of the sea. Schools of fish move in unusual patterns. Massive whales travel through regions they usually avoid, and ancient creatures that rarely appear near Atlantis are suddenly seen swimming through distant waters. These signs suggest that something powerful may be stirring somewhere deep within the planet. The ancient network might not only be awakening, it might also be responding to the presence of a long-forgotten danger. To understand what is happening, Arthur orders a full investigation of the ocean network. Slowly, the scientists start translating the symbols. What they discover sends a shock through everyone present. The ancient civilization that built the network believed that the oceans of Earth were connected to forces deep within the planet, forces capable of creating enormous destructive power if they were ever disturbed. These forces were linked to massive energy pockets located far beneath the ocean floor. According to the ancient records, these energy pockets were stable for thousands of years as long as the balance of the oceans remained undisturbed. However, if the balance were ever disrupted on a global scale, the energy could become unstable and trigger catastrophic events capable of affecting the entire planet. The ancient network was designed to monitor those energy pockets and stabilize them whenever necessary. The structures scattered across the ocean floor work together to maintain that balance by controlling the flow of energy through the seas. But the records also contain a disturbing warning. If the energy pockets ever become too unstable, the network alone may not be strong enough to contain them. Arthur stands silently as the scientists explain the meaning of the ancient message. If these energy pockets truly exist beneath the oceans, they could represent a natural force more powerful than any enemy Atlantis has ever faced. Even worse, the recent disturbances caused by ancient battles and shifting ocean currents may have already begun affecting the delicate balance that the network was meant to protect. Arthur realizes that the future of Atlantis, and possibly the entire planet, may depend on understanding how the ancient network works before the situation grows out of control. He orders Atlantis to expand its research efforts immediately. Teams of engineers and scholars begin studying the structures in greater detail, hoping to learn how to reactivate parts of the system safely. Same time, Arthur sends envoys to the other underwater kingdoms to explain what Atlantis has discovered. For the first time, the rulers of the oceans begin seeing the ancient structures not as mysterious relics, but as a shared responsibility that belongs to all underwater civilizations. If the ancient network truly protects the balance of the oceans, then every kingdom must work together to maintain it. Meanwhile, Arthur continues exploring the deepest parts of the ocean where the energy signals appear strongest. Accompanied by elite Atlantean warriors and scientists, he travels through enormous underwater caverns and dark trenches where the ocean pressure is so intense that few creatures can survive. In these remote regions, Arthur begins sensing something else hidden within the depths, something far older than Atlantis itself. The energy pulses traveling through the network seem to be responding to a presence deep within the planet, almost like a warning signal spreading across the seas. Arthur cannot yet see the source of that presence, but he knows the oceans are trying to tell him something important. The ancient civilization that built the network may have understood that one day someone would need to protect the oceans again. Now that responsibility belongs to the King of Atlantis. Standing in the darkness of the deep sea, surrounded by the glowing energy of ancient technology, Arthur Curry begins to understand that the story of Atlantis is connected to forces far greater than any kingdom or empire. The oceans themselves hold secrets powerful enough to shape the future of the entire world. And as those secrets slowly awaken from their long slumber beneath the waves, the King of Atlantis must prepare for the possibility that the greatest challenge of his journey has not yet arrived. As Atlantis continues studying the ancient network and the powerful forces hidden beneath the oceans, Arthur Curry begins to feel a growing sense of urgency. The more information Atlantean scientists uncover, the clearer it becomes that the ancient civilization that built the network understood the oceans on a level far beyond anything modern Atlantis has achieved. They did not simply build structures across the ocean floor. They created an entire system designed to watch, measure, and control the deep planetary energies flowing beneath the seas. At first, these discoveries bring excitement to the scholars of Atlantis. The idea that their world might inherit knowledge from such an advanced civilization sparks curiosity and ambition. However, the deeper they investigate, the more warnings they find hidden in the ancient records. Many of the translated symbols speak about maintaining balance. This concept appears repeatedly in the messages left behind by the ancient builders. According to the records, the oceans are part of a delicate system that stabilizes powerful energy deep inside the planet. If that balance is disturbed too greatly, the consequences could affect not just the seas, but the entire surface world as well. Arthur listens carefully as these warnings are explained to him. He has fought powerful enemies before, but this situation feels very different. This is not a single villain that can be defeated in battle. Instead, it is a massive natural force connected to the structure of the planet itself. Meanwhile, reports begin arriving from different parts of the ocean describing unusual activity. Massive underwater tremors shake distant trenches, powerful currents appear where none existed before, and strange bursts of energy emerge from deep beneath the seabed. Each event seems small on its own, but together they create a troubling pattern. Atlantean scientists begin suspecting that the ancient energy pockets described in the crystal records are slowly becoming unstable. To understand the situation better, Arthur decides to visit one of the most mysterious locations in the entire ocean, a trench so deep that even Atlantean explorers rarely travel there. This trench lies far beyond the normal borders of Atlantis, in a region where the ocean floor drops sharply into darkness that stretches for miles. Accompanied by a small group of elite warriors and scientists, Arthur descends into the trench using advanced Atlantean vehicles designed to survive the extreme pressure of the deep sea. As they travel downward, the light from the upper ocean disappears completely. The water becomes colder and darker, and strange creatures with glowing bodies drift silently through the darkness. Finally, they reach the bottom of the trench, where they discover something astonishing. Embedded within the rock walls of the trench is another ancient structure, far larger than any of the others Atlantis has studied so far. Its design is more complex, with enormous pillars rising from the seabed and massive rings of glowing symbols slowly rotating around a central core of energy. The scientists quickly realize that this structure may be one of the main control points of the ancient network. As Arthur approaches the structure, his presence appears to trigger a reaction. The glowing symbols on the pillars brighten, and the central energy core begins emitting powerful pulses that spread through the surrounding water. Suddenly, holographic images appear in the water around them, ancient recordings left behind by the builders of the network. These images show an ocean world thousands of years in the past, when the ancient civilization was still active. The recordings reveal that the builders once used the network to monitor enormous energy currents moving deep inside the planet. At first, the system worked perfectly, maintaining balance and preventing those energies from becoming unstable. But the recordings also show a moment when something unexpected happened. The energy beneath the oceans began increasing in strength far beyond what the system was designed to handle. The ancient civilization attempted to stabilize the planet using the network, but the energy surge became too powerful. Faced with the possibility of catastrophic destruction, the builders made a final decision. Instead of trying to completely control the energy, they used the network to seal the most dangerous energy pockets deep beneath the ocean floor. The structures scattered across the seas were left behind as guardians, watching over the sealed forces and maintaining stability for as long as possible. The recording ends with a final warning. If the energy pockets ever become unstable again, the network may only be able to delay the disaster, not stop it entirely. Arthur stands silently as the images fade away. The truth is now clear. The oceans of Earth contain enormous natural power hidden far beneath the seabed, and the ancient civilization spent its final days trying to prevent that power from destroying the planet. The question that now troubles Arthur is simple but terrifying. What if the seals created by the ancient builders are beginning to weaken? Back in Atlantis, the scientists analyzed the new information gathered from the trench structure. Their conclusions confirm Arthur's fears. The recent disturbances in the oceans, battles, shifting currents, and natural changes in the planet may have begun affecting the ancient seals that hold the energy pockets in place. If even one of those seals were to break completely, it could release an enormous surge of energy capable of triggering underwater earthquakes, massive ocean waves, and global environmental damage. Arthur realizes that protecting Atlantis is no longer enough. The stability of the entire planet may depend on keeping those ancient seals intact. He immediately calls a gathering of the leaders from every underwater kingdom. For the first time, Arthur shares the full truth about the ancient network and the sealed forces hidden beneath the oceans. Some leaders react with disbelief, while others are deeply concerned by the news. But once the evidence from the ancient recordings is shown, the seriousness of the situation becomes impossible to ignore. The oceans are not only a kingdom. They are part of a planetary system that must remain in balance. After long discussions, the rulers agree that the underwater civilizations must work together to strengthen the ancient network and protect the seals created by the ancient builders. This cooperation marks a turning point for Atlantis and its allies. Instead of focusing only on their own territories, the ocean kingdoms begin working as a united force dedicated to protecting the entire planet. Arthur begins organizing teams of engineers and scientists to repair damaged structures in the ancient network. Atlantean explorers travel to distant ruins, restoring power sources and studying the technology left behind by the builders. For the first time in thousands of years, the ancient network begins operating again at a level close to its original purpose. But even with these efforts, Arthur knows that the system may only buy time. The true solution may lie in understanding the deeper forces hidden beneath the planet, forces that the ancient civilization feared enough to seal away forever. As Arthur stands once again on the high towers of Atlantis, looking out across the endless ocean, he reflects on how much his journey has changed. What began as the story of a hero claiming his throne has now become something far greater. The King of Atlantis is no longer only protecting his kingdom. As the truth about the ancient ocean network spreads among the underwater kingdoms, Atlantis enters a new era unlike anything it has experienced before. For the first time in thousands of years, the rulers of the seas are not simply thinking about their own territories or rivalries. Instead, they are forced to consider the much larger responsibility of protecting the balance of the entire planet. Arthur Curry understands that this moment will define the future of Atlantis. The ancient civilization that built the ocean network sacrificed everything to keep the dangerous planetary energies sealed beneath the ocean floor. Now that the system is awakening again, the responsibility of maintaining that balance has passed to a new generation. Across the oceans, teams of Atlantean engineers, historians, and explorers begin working together to restore the ancient structures scattered across the seafloor. Some of the ruins had been buried under layers of rock and coral for thousands of years. Others had been damaged by shifting tectonic plates or forgotten battles between underwater kingdoms. Using both ancient records and modern Atlantean technology, the restoration teams slowly begin bringing parts of the network back online. Massive energy pillars buried in deep trenches start glowing again, and the mysterious crystal cores inside some of the structures begin stabilizing the powerful energy currents flowing beneath the oceans. For a brief period, the situation appears to be improving. The strange disturbances in ocean currents begin calming down, and the enormous sea creatures that had been migrating toward the surface slowly return to their normal territories. But Arthur remains cautious. He knows that the ancient builders created the network not only to stabilize the planet, but also to warn future civilizations about the dangers hidden beneath the seas. If the seals protecting those deep planetary energies are weakening, then restoring the network may only slow the process, not completely stop it. At the same time, the decoding of the ancient crystal records continues in the libraries of Atlantis. Scholars work day and night studying the symbols and energy patterns stored inside the mysterious crystals recovered from the ruins. Each new discovery reveals another piece of the lost civilization's knowledge. Eventually, one group of researchers uncovers something extraordinary within the crystal data. Hidden deep inside the ancient records is a final message from the leaders of the civilization that built the ocean network. Unlike the previous warnings, this message appears to have been recorded near the end of their civilization's existence. The translation reveals that the builders knew their time was coming to an end. They had realized that the powerful planetary energies beneath the oceans would eventually grow unstable again, even with the network operating at full strength. To prepare for that possibility, the builders left behind instructions describing a final system, something they called the heart of the ocean. According to the message, the heart of the ocean was a central energy core capable of stabilizing the entire planetary network if the ancient seals ever began to fail. However, activating this core required precise knowledge of the network and access to a location hidden deeper than any structure Atlantis had yet discovered. When Arthur hears about this discovery, he immediately understands its importance. If the heart of the ocean truly exists, it could be the key to protecting the planet from the unstable energies beneath the sea. But there is one major problem. The location of the heart of the ocean was intentionally hidden by the ancient builders to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. The crystal records describe its existence, but only provide fragments of information about where it might be found. This revelation begins a new mission for Atlantis. Instead of simply repairing the ancient network, Arthur and his allies must now search for the final piece of the system that the builders left behind. Explorers begin studying the patterns created by the network structures across the ocean floor. Some believe that the location of the heart of the ocean might be hidden at the center of the entire system. Others think it could lie within a region of the ocean that has never been explored due to extreme pressure and dangerous geological conditions. Arthur decides that the search for the heart of the ocean must become Atlantis' highest priority. Once again, he personally leads an expedition into the deepest and most mysterious parts of the sea. Accompanied by elite Atlantean warriors, engineers, and scholars, Arthur travels through regions of the ocean that even ancient maps barely describe. During this journey, the explorers encounter incredible sights hidden within the dark depths of the planet. Vast underwater mountains stretch for miles beneath the ocean floor. Glowing mineral caves illuminate entire valleys of rock, and enormous sea creatures drift silently through the darkness like living legends from ancient stories. But the deeper the expedition travels, the more powerful the energy signals from the ancient network become. Atlantean instruments detect enormous energy currents flowing through the seabed, suggesting that they are getting closer to the central region where the network's power converges. Finally, after days of exploration, the expedition discovers something astonishing. Hidden within a massive underwater crater is a colossal structure unlike anything Arthur has seen before. It rises from the seabed like a giant tower surrounded by enormous circular rings of glowing energy. The entire structure appears dormant but intact, preserved for thousands of years beneath the ocean. Atlantean scientists quickly realize that this may be the most important structure in the entire ancient network, the heart of the ocean. As Arthur approaches the structure, the glowing rings surrounding it begin slowly rotating. Energy pulses spread outward through the water, connecting with distant structures across the oceans. For the first time since the fall of the ancient civilization, the entire network begins responding to the presence of a new guardian. Inside the structure lies a massive crystal core larger than any discovered before. It radiates a powerful but stable energy that seems capable of controlling the entire network. The scientists studying the structure believe that if the heart of the ocean is activated properly, it could stabilize the planetary energy currents and reinforce the ancient seals protecting the planet. But activating it will not be easy. The system appears to require a unique connection between the network and the individual who commands it. As the King of Atlantis and the only person capable of communicating with the oceans themselves, Arthur may be the only one capable of awakening the heart of the ocean. Standing before the massive crystal core deep within the structure, Arthur realizes that this moment may define the future of the planet. The ancient civilization built this system hoping that one day someone would rise to protect the oceans after they were gone. Now that responsibility rests in the hands of Aquaman. As the glowing energy of the heart of the ocean reflects across the dark waters of the deep sea, Arthur Curry prepares to make the decision that could determine whether the oceans remain stable for thousands of years, or whether the ancient forces sealed beneath them will finally rise again. The story of Aquaman has grown far beyond the tale of a hero claiming a throne. Deep within the colossal structure known as the heart of the ocean, Arthur Curry stands before the massive crystal core that has remained dormant for thousands of years. The glowing energy inside the core pulses slowly, almost as if it is alive, responding to Arthur's presence. Around him, the ancient rings of energy continue rotating silently, sending faint waves of light through the surrounding water. The Atlantean scientists who accompanied the expedition watch carefully as their instruments begin detecting powerful signals spreading outward through the ancient network. Every structure that Atlantis had previously restored, every energy pillar, every deep-sea ruin, every hidden relay station, begins responding to the awakening of the central core. For the first time since the fall of the ancient civilization, the entire ocean network is attempting to come back online. Arthur slowly approaches the crystal core, studying the symbols carved into the surrounding structure. These symbols are similar to the ones found in the ancient ruins scattered across the oceans, but here they appear far more complex, arranged in enormous circular patterns that seem to represent the flow of energy beneath the planet itself. The scholars studying the symbols believe that the heart of the ocean was designed as a final safeguard. If the ancient seals ever began to weaken, this central core could regulate the flow of planetary energy and stabilize the entire network. But activating it requires more than simply turning on a machine. The crystal records discovered earlier suggest that the system must synchronize with a living guardian of the oceans, someone capable of understanding both the ancient technology and the natural balance of the seas. Arthur knows that responsibility belongs to him. As he places his hand near the glowing surface of the crystal core, the energy inside it reacts instantly. Waves of light spread outward across the structure, and the rotating rings surrounding the tower begin spinning faster. The water around the structure vibrates gently as enormous currents of energy begin moving through the ancient network. At the same time, far across the oceans, other structures connected to the network start activating as well. Ancient pillars hidden in trenches begin glowing again. Deep-sea relay stations buried beneath coral reefs awaken from their long silence, and the enormous rings discovered earlier start channeling energy back toward the central core. The network is reconnecting. Back in Atlantis, the scientists monitoring the system watch their instruments in disbelief. Energy readings from across the planet's oceans begin stabilizing as the heart of the ocean starts regulating the powerful currents flowing beneath the seabed. For a moment, it appears that the ancient system may finally be working again. However, the activation also reveals something unexpected. As the network begins stabilizing the energy beneath the oceans, the instruments detect enormous pressure building in one specific region of the planet's seabed. This region lies far deeper than any area Atlantis has explored before, an enormous geological zone where the ancient civilization sealed one of the most powerful planetary energy pockets. The readings show that the seal in that region is weakening faster than the others. Arthur receives the warning through the communication systems brought by the expedition team. The scientists explain that if the seal breaks before the network fully stabilizes, the energy surge could overwhelm the system before the heart of the ocean has time to regulate it. Arthur immediately realizes the danger. The network can stabilize the planet, but only if it has enough time to fully activate. Through communication with the expedition team still inside the central structure, Arthur coordinates an emergency plan. If the heart of the ocean can channel enough energy through the network, it might be possible to reinforce the weakening seal and redirect the planetary energy safely back into the system. However, the process will require a direct connection between Arthur and the ancient structure holding the seal. Without hesitation, Arthur swims toward the damaged pillars at the center of the structure. The energy leaking from the cracks grows stronger with every second, illuminating the darkness of the trench with flashes of blinding light. As Arthur reaches the center of the structure, he places his hands against the ancient stone pillars and focuses on the connection between himself and the oceans around him. For a brief moment, everything becomes silent. Then the network responds. Across the oceans, every restored structure begins sending energy toward the damaged seal. The heart of the ocean channels enormous power through the network, guiding the energy currents toward the trench where Arthur stands. Brilliant waves of light surge through the ancient symbols carved into the pillars as the system attempts to repair the broken seal. The ocean itself seems to respond to Arthur's command. Massive currents shift direction. The leaking energy begins flowing back into the network, and the cracks in the ancient structure slowly begin stabilizing as the pressure beneath the seabed is redirected. The process pushes Arthur to his limits. Controlling such enormous forces requires complete concentration, and the energy flowing through the system grows stronger with every passing second. But slowly, the network begins winning the battle. The energy surges weaken, the trembling of the seabed begins to slow, and the ancient structure holding the seal stabilizes once again. Back in Atlantis, the news spreads quickly. The ocean kingdoms celebrate not just the stabilization of the network, but the realization that they have successfully inherited the responsibility once carried by the lost civilization of the deep. Arthur Curry has done more than save Atlantis. He has proven that the oceans still have a guardian capable of protecting the balance of the planet itself. And while the ancient forces beneath the seas remain powerful and mysterious, the network designed to contain them now has a new protector. The King of Atlantis, the hero known across the world as Aquaman. With the immediate crisis averted, Atlantis begins a new chapter of growth and discovery. The stabilization of the ancient network and the successful reinforcement of the deep energy seal have proven that Arthur Curry is not only a king, but a guardian capable of handling forces beyond any ordinary being. Yet, even as celebrations ripple through the underwater kingdoms, Arthur knows that the balance of the oceans is delicate and must be maintained continuously. The restoration of the network has awakened a newfound awareness among the Atlantean people. Scholars, engineers, and warriors now understand that their oceans are part of a vast, interconnected system spanning the entire planet. They realize that Atlantis alone cannot shoulder the responsibility for its protection. Cooperation with neighboring underwater kingdoms and even with select surface allies is essential. Mera becomes an indispensable partner in this endeavor, leading diplomatic missions to strengthen alliances and unify efforts across the seas. Meanwhile, Arthur himself begins training with the heart of the ocean. He discovers that his bond with the network is not merely functional, it is intuitive. The ancient civilization designed the system to respond to a guardian who can understand and empathize with the natural flow of the oceans. Subtle signs indicate the presence of other civilizations or intelligent species that may have interacted with the network or contributed to its creation. These revelations suggest that Earth's oceans have always been far more complex than previously imagined, teeming not only with life, but with ancient intelligence capable of shaping the planet itself. Arthur's leadership becomes both a symbol of hope and a practical guide for the underwater kingdoms. He establishes councils combining scholars, warriors, and engineers from multiple civilizations to ensure that knowledge is shared and that any threat to oceanic balance can be addressed collectively. This approach strengthens political alliances and ensures that no single kingdom holds disproportionate influence over forces that affect the entire planet. Even as peace settles over Atlantis, Arthur senses that the oceans still hold unknown challenges. The energy pockets beneath the planet, though stabilized for now, continue to pulse faintly with immense power. The heart of the ocean allows him to monitor them, but the ancient records imply that time, natural changes, or unforeseen events could test the network's integrity again. Arthur accepts that safeguarding the planet is an ongoing duty, requiring vigilance, knowledge, and unwavering courage. Beyond governance and exploration, Arthur begins mentoring the next generation of Atlanteans. He trains young warriors to navigate the oceans with skill and respect, teaches scholars to study ancient technology responsibly, and encourages leaders to think beyond their kingdoms, fostering a sense of global responsibility. He ensures that the legacy of the ocean's protection does not rest solely on his shoulders, but becomes a shared mission across generations. As months pass, subtle signs of life in the deep ocean start shifting. Previously dormant species move in patterns that suggest they are adapting to changes in the ancient network. Currents adjust naturally, weather patterns stabilize, and the overall health of the marine ecosystem improves. Arthur observes these changes with satisfaction, realizing that the oceans themselves are responding positively to the restored balance. At the same time, Arthur remains vigilant. The heart of the ocean continues to pulse with immense energy, and the ancient network hums quietly beneath the seas, ready to react to any threat. Arthur knows that he must remain connected to it, not just as a king, but as a guardian, prepared to respond whenever the planet calls upon him. The legend of Aquaman, once centered on battles for a throne, now transcends to a much greater scale. It is the tale of a hero entrusted with the stewardship of Earth's oceans, a protector who can communicate with the seas, understand their rhythms, and harness ancient knowledge to preserve the balance of the planet. As the sun sets over Atlantis, casting shimmering light across the water, Arthur surveys the horizon. The oceans are vast, mysterious, and alive with energy that stretches far deeper than anyone has ever explored. Yet, with the heart of the ocean secured and the network stabilized, he feels a renewed sense of purpose. The seas are at peace, for now, and humanity and Atlantis alike are safer than they have ever been. But Arthur knows that vigilance is eternal. The oceans, like life itself, are unpredictable and powerful. They contain secrets older than Atlantis, energies far greater than any kingdom, and mysteries that may never be fully understood. He is ready to face whatever challenges arise, confident that with wisdom, courage, and unity, the balance of the seas can be preserved. Even with the heart of the ocean secured and the ancient network restored, Arthur Curry knows that the oceans hold mysteries beyond even Atlantis's imagination. The successful stabilization of the energy pockets beneath the seabed is only the beginning. The ancient records hint at areas of the ocean that remain untouched, regions so deep and isolated that even the builders themselves rarely ventured there. These places, shrouded in darkness and pressure, may contain forces that have slept undisturbed for millennia. Driven by his instinct as both a king and a guardian, Arthur decides to explore these uncharted territories. He organizes a series of expeditions into the most remote and mysterious regions of the ocean. Each journey pushes the limits of Atlantean technology and human endurance. Submersibles descend into trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall, guided by energy readings from the heart of the ocean. Specialized teams follow, recording every anomaly, every shift in the ocean currents, and every glimpse of life forms never before seen. The deeper Arthur ventures, the more he realizes that the oceans themselves seem aware of his presence. Schools of bioluminescent fish form intricate patterns around his submersible, giant jellyfish drift in hypnotic formations, and colossal creatures, previously thought extinct, swim silently in the darkness. It is as if the ancient guardians of the seas are observing him, recognizing that he has inherited a responsibility far greater than any single kingdom. During one of these explorations, Arthur discovers a massive underwater plateau that seems to radiate an energy unlike anything the heart of the ocean has previously recorded. The readings suggest that this area may have been a central hub for an even older civilization, predating the known builders of the ocean network. Enormous stone monoliths rise from the plateau, etched with symbols unfamiliar to Atlantean scholars. The inscriptions pulse faintly, as though they are alive, waiting for someone capable of understanding their meaning. Intrigued, Arthur and his team begin decoding the symbols, realizing that they describe a hierarchy of energy flows connecting not only the oceans, but also the core of the planet itself. The records imply that these ancient beings had achieved a level of control over the seas and the planet's natural forces that modern civilizations could only dream of. Some scholars speculate that these civilizations may have been the true originators of the energy network, leaving behind a system that evolved over millennia into the one Atlantis inherited. As Arthur delves deeper into the plateau, the heart of the ocean resonates more strongly than ever. The network seems to respond to the discovery, directing energy toward this newly uncovered region. It becomes apparent that the stabilization of the known energy pockets was only part of a much larger puzzle. The full balance of the oceans, and perhaps the planet, depends on understanding and integrating the knowledge from this ancient plateau into the existing network. Meanwhile, back in Atlantis, Mera coordinates diplomatic efforts to strengthen alliances among the underwater kingdoms. She emphasizes the importance of shared knowledge and joint responsibility. By uniting the realms, she ensures that the extraordinary discoveries and technology recovered from these expeditions benefit all the oceans, rather than remaining confined to a single kingdom. These alliances foster a sense of unity, trust, and cooperation, laying the groundwork for a global oceanic coalition capable of addressing any threat, natural or otherwise. As the exploration continues, Arthur encounters signs that not all forces beneath the seas are benign. These elements together help establish the tone of the film long before audiences actually watch it in theaters. The marketing campaign for a movie like Aquaman 3 would likely build momentum over many months. Posters showing Arthur holding the legendary trident while standing before the ocean horizon, teaser clips revealing flashes of underwater battles, and interviews with the cast discussing the next chapter of the story would all contribute to the growing anticipation. Fans around the world would analyze every small detail, trying to guess what the new adventure might bring. Eventually, as the release date approaches, excitement would reach its peak. Superhero films often become global events, with audiences gathering in theaters to experience the story together on the biggest screens possible. Aquaman's underwater world is especially suited for that kind of cinematic experience because the scale and visual beauty of the oceans look most impressive on a large screen. At its heart, the story of Aquaman has always been about identity and belonging. Arthur Curry was once someone who felt like he did not fully belong anywhere. Over time, he discovered that his mixed heritage was actually his greatest strength. He became the bridge between two worlds, the hero capable of protecting both the surface and the sea. A third chapter of his journey could continue exploring that idea while raising the stakes higher than ever before. If Aquaman 3 moves forward in the future, it has the potential to expand the underwater universe in ways that audiences have only begun to imagine. New kingdoms, powerful enemies, ancient legends, and breathtaking battles could all become part of the story. The oceans are still filled with mysteries waiting to be discovered, and the King of Atlantis may not yet have faced his greatest challenge. As the imagined story of a third Aquaman film continues to unfold, the world beneath the oceans becomes even more complex and fascinating. Arthur Curry is no longer simply the warrior who claimed the throne of Atlantis. He is now a symbol of unity for the entire underwater civilization. Every decision he makes carries enormous consequences, and the deeper he steps into the role of king, the more he realizes that ruling Atlantis is not only about strength. It requires wisdom, patience, and the ability to understand the fears and ambitions of many different kingdoms that live beneath the waves. Over time, Arthur begins to notice that the balance of power in the oceans is slowly shifting. Some of the underwater kingdoms remain loyal to Atlantis, believing Arthur is the right leader to guide them into the future. However, other factions begin to question whether a king who was raised on the surface can truly represent the traditions of the ocean. These doubts may not immediately lead to open conflict, but they create tension that spreads quietly through the underwater world. Rumors grow, alliances begin to shift, and whispers of rebellion slowly echo through the deep sea. At the same time, strange events begin happening in the farthest reaches of the ocean. Ancient ruins that have been silent for centuries start showing signs of activity. Powerful currents appear in places where the water was once calm, and mysterious energy pulses through the deepest trenches. Atlantean scholars and explorers attempt to investigate these unusual occurrences, but many of them return with warnings that something ancient may be awakening beneath the ocean floor. These discoveries could lead to one of the most mysterious elements of the story. Deep in the unexplored depths of the sea lies a forgotten part of Atlantean history, an era so old that most modern Atlanteans know very little about it. According to ancient records, there once existed a powerful empire beneath the waves long before Atlantis rose to dominance. This civilization possessed knowledge and abilities far beyond what even the most advanced Atlantean technology can achieve today. However, for reasons lost to time, that ancient empire disappeared, leaving behind only scattered ruins and legends. Arthur and his allies might eventually discover that these ruins are connected to the strange disturbances happening across the oceans. Something hidden within the ancient empire may be returning to life. Perhaps a powerful guardian, an ancient machine, or even a forgotten ruler has awakened after thousands of years of silence. Whatever the truth may be, it becomes clear that this ancient power could threaten not only Atlantis, but every kingdom living beneath the sea. As the mystery grows deeper, Arthur must gather the leaders of the underwater kingdoms to discuss the danger. This moment could become one of the most important scenes in the story, showing how the different rulers of the ocean view the situation. Some leaders might want to confront the ancient threat immediately with military force, while others may argue that disturbing ancient powers could make the situation worse. Arthur finds himself caught between these opposing viewpoints, realizing that whatever choice he makes will shape the future of the oceans. Meanwhile, the villain of the story begins to emerge from the shadows. Unlike previous enemies who relied purely on strength or revenge, this new antagonist could be someone who believes they are the rightful ruler of the seas. Perhaps this character is connected to the lost empire that existed before Atlantis. They may see Arthur's rule as illegitimate and believe the oceans should return to the control of their ancient civilization. This belief could drive the villain to gather followers from across the ocean, creating a powerful force determined to overthrow Atlantis. While armies and weapons may be necessary for battle, understanding the creatures of the ocean might reveal clues about the ancient power that has returned. Some of these creatures could even become allies in the fight, forming a breathtaking alliance between Atlantis and the wild forces of the ocean. The action sequences in a story like this would naturally grow even more spectacular. Imagine a massive battle taking place near a gigantic underwater ruin glowing with ancient energy. Atlantean soldiers clash with the forces of the ancient empire while giant sea creatures circle the battlefield. Currents swirl through the water as powerful weapons light up the darkness of the deep sea. At the center of it all stands Arthur Curry, holding the legendary trident as he leads Atlantis into one of the greatest battles in its history. The visual design of these environments could push the franchise to new creative heights. Ancient underwater cities covered in glowing symbols, enormous statues of forgotten rulers rising from the seabed, and mysterious energy flowing through ancient structures could give the movie a mythical atmosphere unlike anything seen before in the series. As the conflict reaches its climax, Arthur may discover that defeating the ancient power requires more than simply destroying it. The secret to saving the oceans might involve understanding the history that led to the fall of the original empire. Perhaps the ancient civilization collapsed because it abused its power or tried to control the oceans in ways that disrupted the natural balance of the planet. Realizing this truth could give Arthur the knowledge needed to stop the villain and restore balance to the seas. Instead of repeating the mistakes of the past, he would prove that the future of Atlantis must be built on unity rather than domination. This realization would reinforce the central theme of Aquaman's journey, that true leadership comes not from power alone, but from the ability to bring. As peace slowly returns to the oceans after the massive conflict that shook the underwater kingdoms, Arthur Curry begins to understand that victory does not always mean the end of challenges. In fact, sometimes it marks the beginning of a completely new chapter. The battle against the ancient power may have ended, but the consequences of that battle continue to ripple across the seas. Entire regions of the ocean were disturbed during the conflict, forgotten ruins were revealed, and new questions about the history of Atlantis have started to emerge. For Arthur, these discoveries bring a new responsibility. The King of Atlantis must now guide the oceans through a period of rebuilding and reflection. Some underwater cities suffered damage during the war, and many kingdoms must work together to restore balance to their territories. Arthur realizes that this moment could either strengthen the unity of the ocean civilizations or cause them to fall back into division if old rivalries return. To prevent that from happening, Arthur begins visiting the different underwater kingdoms personally. Instead of ruling only from the throne room of Atlantis, he travels across the seas, meeting leaders, warriors, and citizens from every corner of the ocean world. These journeys show him parts of the ocean he has never seen before. Vast glowing reefs stretching for miles, deep trenches where strange creatures move through total darkness, and ancient temples built by civilizations that existed long before Atlantis. During these travels, Arthur also begins hearing stories from historians and explorers who have been studying the ruins uncovered during the recent conflict. Many of these ruins contain symbols and records from the ancient empire that once ruled the seas thousands of years ago. The more these historians learn, the clearer it becomes that Atlantis itself was shaped by the rise and fall of earlier civilizations. The message is incomplete and difficult to translate, but the few symbols that can be understood carry a chilling implication. The ancient network may not simply be a tool left behind by a lost civilization. It may be part of a system designed to monitor the oceans and possibly even protect the planet from a threat that could one day rise from the depths. Arthur stands silently as the scientists explain their findings. The oceans have always been filled with mysteries, but this discovery suggests that something even greater lies hidden beneath the waves. Something ancient, something powerful, and possibly something that the creators of the ancient network were preparing the oceans to face. Arthur looks out across the vast waters surrounding Atlantis, knowing that whatever secrets the ocean still holds, they are slowly beginning to reveal themselves. The legend of Aquaman is no longer only about battles between heroes and villains. It has become a journey into the hidden history of the oceans themselves, a story that may eventually uncover truths far older and more powerful than Atlantis ever imagined. And as the King of Atlantis, Arthur Curry knows that when those truths finally rise from the depths, he will be the one standing between the mysteries of the sea and the future of the entire world. As the mysterious signal from the ancient ocean network spreads across the seas, a sense of unease begins to grow throughout Atlantis and the surrounding underwater kingdoms. The message hidden within the energy pulses remains incomplete, but even the fragments that Atlantean scientists have managed to translate are enough to raise serious concerns. The ancient civilization that created the network did not simply build it to control ocean currents or share knowledge across the seas. The symbols strongly suggest that the system may have been designed as a planetary defense mechanism, something meant to monitor and respond to a threat that could one day rise from the deepest parts of the ocean. Arthur Curry listens carefully as scholars and researchers present their findings. Some of them believe the network was created to prevent natural disasters that could disrupt the oceans. Others think it may have been meant to protect the planet from forces beyond Earth itself. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is clear. The structures scattered across the ocean floor were built with a purpose far greater than Atlantis originally believed. Meanwhile, strange changes continue happening across the seas. Certain deep trenches begin releasing powerful energy pulses similar to those coming from the ancient structures. Giant sea creatures that normally remain hidden in the deepest waters begin moving closer to the surface. Even the currents surrounding Atlantis shift slightly, as if the oceans themselves are reacting to something awakening beneath them. Arthur begins to feel that the oceans are trying to warn him about something. As someone who has always shared a unique connection with marine life, he senses a growing restlessness among the creatures of the sea. Schools of fish move in unusual patterns. Massive whales travel through regions they usually avoid, and ancient creatures that rarely appear near Atlantis are suddenly seen swimming through distant waters. These signs suggest that something powerful may be stirring somewhere deep within the planet. The ancient network might not only be awakening, it might also be responding to the presence of a long-forgotten danger. To understand what is happening, Arthur orders a full investigation of the ocean network. Same time, Arthur sends envoys to the other underwater kingdoms to explain what Atlantis has discovered. For the first time, the rulers of the oceans begin seeing the ancient structures not as mysterious relics, but as a shared responsibility that belongs to all underwater civilizations. If the ancient network truly protects the balance of the oceans, then every kingdom must work together to maintain it. Meanwhile, Arthur continues exploring the deepest parts of the ocean where the energy signals appear strongest. Accompanied by elite Atlantean warriors and scientists, he travels through enormous underwater caverns and dark trenches where the ocean pressure is so intense that few creatures can survive. In these remote regions, Arthur begins sensing something else hidden within the depths, something far older than Atlantis itself. The energy pulses traveling through the network seem to be responding to a presence deep within the planet, almost like a warning signal spreading across the seas. Arthur cannot yet see the source of that presence, but he knows the oceans are trying to tell him something important. The ancient civilization that built the network may have understood that one day someone would need to protect the oceans again. Now that responsibility belongs to the King of Atlantis. Standing in the darkness of the deep sea, surrounded by the glowing energy of ancient technology, Arthur Curry begins to understand that the story of Atlantis is connected to forces far greater than any kingdom or empire. The oceans themselves hold secrets powerful enough to shape the future of the entire world. And as those secrets slowly awaken from their long slumber beneath the waves, the King of Atlantis must prepare for the possibility that the greatest challenge of his journey has not yet arrived. In certain regions of the plateau, he detects pockets of raw energy that pulse unpredictably, seemingly disconnected from the network's stabilizing influence. These unstable areas suggest that even the most advanced ancient civilizations could not fully control the immense powers hidden within the planet. Arthur realizes that the oceans, while beautiful and life-giving, also hold immense latent forces that demand respect and constant vigilance. It is during one of these deep-sea missions that Arthur uncovers the first evidence of a potential threat, a series of energy anomalies that suggest a concentration of force so powerful It could rival the combined strength of the ancient network itself. The anomalies are located in a trench far deeper than any explored before, a place where the pressure is crushing and the darkness absolute. The heart of the ocean resonates faintly in response, as if warning Arthur that this region requires immediate attention. Determined to investigate, Arthur prepares a specialized mission into this abyss. He assembles a team of elite warriors and scientists, equipping them with the latest Atlantean technology capable of surviving the extreme depths. The journey is perilous, requiring navigation through narrow canyons, turbulent currents, and fields of magnetic anomalies that disrupt conventional instruments. As the team descends into the trench, the water grows colder, and visibility drops to near zero. Bioluminescent creatures illuminate fleeting glimpses of the terrain, revealing colossal structures partially buried in sediment. These ruins bear an eerie resemblance to the plateau discovered earlier, but seem far older, their design more alien, and their energy patterns chaotic and unstable. Arthur senses that he is on the threshold of uncovering something critical, something the ancient civilizations either could not contain or chose to conceal. The trench holds the key to understanding the full extent of the forces beneath the oceans, but it also carries dangers that could challenge even the combined power of Atlantis and the heart of the ocean. As the team moves deeper into the abyss, the energy anomalies grow stronger. Pulses of raw force ripple through the water, creating turbulence so intense that even the most advanced Atlantean submersibles struggle to maintain stability. Arthur realizes that these anomalies may represent ancient energy pockets that were never fully sealed or controlled by the builders. If they remain unchecked, they could destabilize the network entirely. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Arthur prepares to engage directly with the trench's energy. The heart of the ocean hums in resonance, connecting him to every corner of the network. He senses the raw power beneath the seabed, a force that is both alive and unpredictable. It is here, in the darkest depths of the ocean, that Arthur must prove himself not only as a king, but as the guardian of the planet's most profound secrets. With every heartbeat, he reaches deeper into the connection, aligning his mind and spirit with the flow of the ancient energy. The water around him begins to glow faintly as the energy pulses respond to his presence. The chaotic forces of the trench start to stabilize, guided by his will and the network's influence. Arthur knows that this is only the beginning. The trench reveals that the oceans are far more complex and powerful than even the ancient builders realized. The network, while extraordinary, is part of a much larger system, one that spans the entire planet and connects life, energy, and the very balance of Earth itself. As the trench settles into a controlled state under Arthur's guidance, he realizes that the role of Aquaman has transformed once again. He is no longer simply the protector of Atlantis, nor even of the known seas. With the trench stabilized and the chaotic energy pockets brought under control, Arthur Curry begins to comprehend the true scale of the ocean's mysteries. Each mission into the depths reveals new layers of complexity, hidden currents, ancient ruins, and energy flows that predate even the known Atlantean civilization. The oceans are no longer simply a kingdom to rule. They are a living, breathing system of immense power that demands respect, knowledge, and constant vigilance. Arthur realizes that while the heart of the ocean has given him unprecedented control over the ancient network, the oceans themselves are sentient in subtle ways. Currents shift in response to life forms. Deep-sea predators patrol specific territories, and energy flows maintain balance in ways that even the most advanced instruments cannot fully predict. The oceans are alive, and the network is only one part of a larger, planetary ecosystem that links water, energy, and life in a delicate equilibrium. As Atlantis celebrates the stabilization of the network and the successful reinforcement of the deep energy pockets, Arthur does not rest. He knows that the power beneath the seas is ancient and immense, capable of creating life-sustaining forces or unleashing catastrophic destruction. The trenches, the plateaus, and the ruins scattered across the ocean floor are reminders that even the most sophisticated civilizations could not fully control these energies. They serve as both a warning and a guide for the present. Arthur begins organizing comprehensive studies of the energy flows beneath the oceans. Teams of scientists, engineers, and historians map the currents, monitor fluctuations, and study the interactions between life forms and energy patterns. Mera coordinates diplomatic missions with neighboring underwater kingdoms, sharing findings and strengthening alliances. Together, they create a coalition dedicated to the preservation of the oceans, the ancient network, and the planet's balance.